رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. أما بعد. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How's everybody doing? Alhamdulillah. So today we're taking a look at ayah number 3 in Surah Al-Muddaththir, in which Allah Ta'ala says, بَعْدَ أَعُوذُ بِاللَّهِ مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ الرَّجِيمِ وَرَبَّكَ فَكَبِّرْ. And your Lord, magnify, glorify, if you will. Allah Ta'ala, however you wish to translate it. This may be the first ayah which made obligatory the salah, or you could even say recommended, because if you think about it, we have to remember that it's not like we had 5 daily prayers right from the beginning of Islam. That's not how it was. Rather, wallahu ta'ala, but it seems that there were 2 prayers a day, around morning time and evening time, and wallah, if they were obligatory or just recommended. Of course, the Prophet ﷺ, he prayed at night regularly, and this is something that was mandated in Surah Muzammil. But up until this point, we know that those were the prayers, and then only at the 10th year of prophethood, that's when Isra wal Mi'raj happened, and that's when the 5 daily salawat were obliged upon this ummah. So it's interesting that Iqra, the first ayat that came before this, those first 5 ayat, they don't mention any worship. They mention research, Iqra, read, study, understand, try to appreciate. But now we have وَرَبَّكَ فَكَبِّرْ, which could be a reference to salah, because it could be a reference to takbiratul ihram, as in the first time Allahu Akbar that you say when you raise your hands, and you say Allahu Akbar, and you begin the prayer. And it's also interesting to note that Surah Iqra is emphasizing what? Study, research, get to the bottom of things, learn, understand as much as you can. But at a certain point you have to recognize you won't learn everything. You can't say that I've gotten to the bottom of literally everything, because Allah Ta'ala is beyond our comprehension. So you will learn as much as you possibly can, and then there will be certain points that you just have to say, look, this is beyond my scope. Allah is greater than this. I can learn so much, be very, very convinced, and then certain things are beyond our comprehension. A simple example would be, why 5 daily prayers? It's definitely not illogical. You can't say that that doesn't make sense, but I don't know the reason why 5 is the special number. It could have been 6, it could have been 4. I don't know why 5 is the one. There's nothing illogical about it, but it is beyond my comprehension. And so at a certain point you have to say what? Allah is greater. Allah knows. Allahu Akbar. And that's why you say, you declare that Allah is beyond my comprehension, and you submit yourself, you put your face to the floor, and this is what salah is, encompassing, this idea of simply saying, look, okay, I tried my best with Iqra, and now I've reached Surah Al-Muddaththir, وَرَبَّكَ فَكَبِّرْ, Allah is beyond my comprehension. There's certain things I will never get to the bottom of. How did Allah create the universe? I have no idea. I don't think we're ever going to understand how do you create universes, and this is something that is beyond our comprehension. There's a very beautiful quote that I think is really magnificent. It says, Allahu Akbar isn't just about making Allah greater or great in your mind, it's about minimizing everything else. I thought that was a great quote. I actually forgot where I got it from, but anyway, it's a nice quote, maybe someone will find it. But it's a beautiful quote, the idea of, it's not just about saying that Allah is so great and so powerful. No, it's also about minimizing everything that is occupying your mind, occupying your heart, the things that are stressing you out, the things that are distracting you from your deen, the things that are making you nervous to practice your deen, right? You're shy about. It's not just about making Allah great, it's also about minimizing those other things, because Allah is Akbar, He's greater than those things. So it's Him being greater and and those other things being smaller in your estimation. Why would somebody be wrapped up avoiding giving dawah? Because the pressure is too big. Going out in front of the people, the disappointment they'll have, the insults they'll have, the questions they'll have, the mocking they will, they're going to subject them to. All of this is going to be so big in my mind, and so ultimately you have to make Allah greater than all of that. Hence, Ya ayyuhal muddaththir, oh you was wrapped up, go and warn the people. وَرَبَّكَ فَكَبِّرْ. So the expected sentence here is وَكَبِّرْ رَبَّكَ. وَكَبِّرْ رَبَّكَ. So why is it that the order is switched? Well, because when you advance the وَرَبَّكَ فَكَبِّرْ, you are creating exclusivity, Tafseer, and continuity. You're also making it in all circumstances. So saying, listen, you're not just magnifying Allah, you're magnifying and glorifying Allah to the exclusion of all idols. Nothing else deserves this. So there's this exclusivity. And also continuously, no matter what the circumstances give you, you have to keep going in this regard. Now I know some people, they talk about how beautiful the wa here, Wallahu ta'ala a'lam, could be seen kind of like capitalizing of the letter. Like, in English, to start a sentence, you have a capital. So the wa could represent that, like this is the start of a sentence. And so therefore you don't consider it like a full letter necessarily, and they say, look at how beautiful رَبَّكَ فَكَبِّرْ is written forward and backwards. What's it called? Palindrome? Is that it? Palindrome? It's a palindrome. It's how, you have ra and ra, the first and the last, and then ba and ba, the second and the second to last, and then the kaf and kaf, the third and third to last, and then fa is in the middle. And so this is a statement about glorifying Allah, and it is beautiful in meaning, but it's also beautiful even in structure, because it is the same forwards and backwards. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam. So there is that, you could say, that extra divine, what's it called? Added artistry to Allah Ta'ala's word. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam. Now, in terms of the fa, what does this represent? The fa, Wallahu ta'ala a'lam, implies the meaning of وَرَبَّكَ مَهْمَ يَكُنْ فَكَبِّرْهُ. It means, whatever happens. So, and as for your Lord, whatever happens to you, magnify Him. So this is continuing with the idea of regardless of the circumstances, things might get tough. فَكَبِّرْ, just do it regardless. Regardless of what happens to you, you have to keep going. Now, how do we understand this ayah? It could be understood meaning what? Describe your master, your Lord. Describe Allah Ta'ala with the descriptions of greatness. In other words, you need, in your estimation, to describe Him in such a way to the people, as in, He is one who has no partners, He has no children, nor any parents. Lam yalid wa lam yulad, right? He has no weaknesses, no blemishes. Subhanallah amma yushrikun. He has nothing that you can associate to Him that is negative. He has the greatest qualities that belong exclusively to Him. All worship belongs to Him. Magnify Allah Ta'ala. Make Allah Ta'ala great in what? In your own beliefs in your heart. In your words when you're speaking to the people, and in whatever you say. In your own deeds and the way you behave, because you don't want to be hypocritical, say one thing, do the other. No, your lifestyle should demonstrate the greatness of Allah. In your teachings, how you have an influence on others, and of course in your worship. That's the most straightforward and the most obvious. Now, something very fascinating is that being a da'i, being somebody who calls to Islam, and obviously this is about being a da'i, this whole surah, Ya Al-Muddaththir, qum fa'anzir, let's go, give da'wah. So we're learning something about how we, and by the way, this really applies to us. I mean, subhanAllah, there are Muslims all over the world that live in areas that are fully Muslim, right? They don't deal with lots of non-Muslims, whereas we do. So we are extremely, in an extremely, you could say, privileged, also challenging situation, in that we have the ability to talk to non-Muslims all the time. So what are some of the pitfalls of the da'i? Well, if your pulpit time, like me being here giving this talk, or if you give your lectures to anybody, whatever the case may be, if your pulpit time should increase, then it has to be proportional with your private time of worship. So this combination of, look, if you're going to be a da'i, Ya Al-Muddaththir, who's wrapped up, qum fa'anzir, go warn the people, wa rabbaka fakabbir. So this combination of saying, look, yes, go out and give da'wah, but at the same time you need to be balancing that with your personal worship. Why? Because that is humbling you. You're mentioning Allah is so great. And the idea here is when you make Allah Ta'ala greater, what is becoming smaller? Your own self, your own ego, your own fame, your own brand. I thought I was going to give da'wah and get so many viewers. I thought everyone was going to love me. I thought they'd be chanting my name and saying this is the greatest da'i ever. وَرَبَّكَ فَكَبِّرْ. Go out and give your da'wah. يَا أَيُّهَا الْمُدَّثِّرْ قُمْ فَأَنذِرْ. وَرَبَّكَ فَكَبِّرْ. Don't worry about making a big name for yourself. No. Rather, you have to balance the outside da'wah with the inside ibadah to humble yourself and to break that ego. And this is something that's very difficult, because obviously, if you're studying and if you're talking to people, if you're having discussions, oftentimes you want to have downtime. You want to come home and just sit back and relax and watch entertainment. That's natural. You're a human being. But you can't forget to give some sort of a portion of your time to ibadah and worship, because this is the divine formula being laid out here in the surah. How do we apply this practically? One of the most important ways to do this takbir, to do this magnification of Allah Ta'ala, is by learning His names and attributes, learning who Allah Ta'ala is. The Prophet says, إِنَّ لِلَّهِ تِسْعَةً وَتِسْعِينَ إِسْمًا مِئَةً إِلَّا وَاحِدًا مَنْ أَحْصَاهَا دَخَلَ الْجَنَّةِ. Allah has 99 names, 100 minus 1, and whoever knows them, or أحصاها has many meanings. One of them is to recite them regularly, make dua with them, to have them firmly in your heart, that they have an effect on who you are. أحصاها is to preserve it in such a way where these names are real to you, and then inshallah you will enter paradise. Yes, so you need to make Allah Ta'ala the greatest concern in your life. وَرَبَّكَ فَكَبِّرْ. The biggest thing in your heart. وَثِيَابَكَ فَطَهِّرْ. And as for your clothing, your thawb, thiyab is the plural of thawb. Thawb is your shirt. فَطَهِّرْ, so purify, so clean it up. So the pattern is the same. The maf'ul bihi has been advanced, has taqdeem. What is the reason for that? Allahu a'lam, for emphasis here. It seems that this is emphasizing, this is really important. It's also interesting, if وَرَبَّكَ فَكَبِّرْ is takbiratul ihram, is the first when you say Allahu Akbar. وَثِيَابَكَ فَطَهِّرْ could be saying, and don't forget, you have to have proper wudu. This is just one interesting opinion, that وَثِيَابَكَ فَطَهِّرْ, part of wudu is to make sure, what? That your clothes are clean, that you've washed up, that your area, there's no najasa, and where you're praying, and so forth. So Allah, that combination seems quite interesting. Now, what could this statement mean? وَثِيَابَكَ فَطَهِّرْ. The most straightforward, the most literal, which I think is, I would say, why not just take it the most literal way, is literally clean your clothes in the sense of, just like before salah, and just like in life in general, you want to remove any impurities, you want to freshen up. Now think about this, anytime a person is taking a job seriously, they don't just jump into the job, they dress for the part, right? I want you to imagine, yourself, you're getting this new job, you have to ask yourself, how can I equip myself, dress myself, prepare myself so I can do this with perfection, right? And we should think about this every time we get dressed in the morning. How can I represent myself in such a way that I'm representing my deen in the best way possible, right? This is a very important idea. You should dress your best. Why? Because you are representing Islam in a world amongst non-Muslims. We really want to represent our deen in the best way possible. And let's not forget that clothing is communication. At the end of the day, nobody can deny. And the most obvious form is what? Uniforms. The doctor wears the white coat. Why? Does that make him a better doctor? No. The police officer wears blue. Why? Does that make him a better police officer? No. Uniforms convey a message. They are communicating to you. Clothes ultimately convey. If you're trying to look like a certain look, I want to look tough, I want to look beautiful, I want to be attractive, I want to let the world know that I am not to be messed with. There's all these different things we do to send messages. So never forget that. You want to make sure that your clothes are sending the correct message. And therefore we practice what? وَثِيَابَكَ فَطَهِّرْ. Now, we should also remember that you're trying to communicate a message about your faith internally, so you don't want people to get caught up on your external appearance. It would be really bad if you have a beautiful message about Islam, but the guy just can't get over the fact that you look horrible, right? That your clothes are either ripped or stained or ugly or whatever the case is. So we really need to apply this to ourselves. Furthermore, I want you to imagine you just got a huge new job, and the job has a huge, let's say, jump from your previous position. I want you to imagine you used to be flipping burgers in some restaurant, and now, subhanAllah, you just were given the position of CEO in some super huge, important, multi-million-dollar company. Don't you think you would go shopping to upgrade your wardrobe? I mean, just common sense, right? Just a common sense point. Don't you think you're like, oh my goodness, tomorrow's my first day, I better go shopping. I better put on the proper suit, right? I just got upgraded, I better take this very, very seriously. Yes, well, if that is the case, then let's not forget that the Prophet ﷺ just went from being a regular human being, a regular man, to what? To now having the title of final messenger. The final messenger to mankind, a mercy, rahmatan lil alameen. He's a mercy to mankind. He is the leader, Sayyid of Bani Adam, right? He's the leader of all of mankind. So this is bigger than some CEO, right? This is more important than, oh, I better get a really nice suit, right? No. We're talking about you really need to look the part. And when you, inshallah, and all of us, start taking our deen seriously and our da'wah seriously, we're going to say, well, I need to take my clothing seriously as well. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam bis-sawab. There are many different expressions, even in the English language, about clothes. Clothes make the man, dress to impress. You never get a second chance at making a first impression. The way you dress is the way you are addressed. The way you dress is the way you are addressed. Nice. Image is everything. I mean, it's not literal, but anyway, it's just an expression. Your wardrobe speaks before you do. That's pretty cool. Your wardrobe speaks before you do. So lots of different quotes, and mashallah, it's true, we should take it seriously. Now, on a figurative basis, وَثِيَابَكَ فَطَهِّرْ, what does it mean? Well, your thawb could represent your body or your general place of prayer, your surroundings, like basically what's around you. And so this is from the Arabic expression, for example, فَشَكَكْتُ بِالرُّمْحِ الْأَصَنِ ثِيَابَهُ. I stabbed his clothes with a fatal sharp spear. So this is an Arabic expression. You didn't actually stab his clothes. What does it mean? You stabbed his body. So this could be a reference of cleaning your body and your physical surroundings. Number two, another Arabic expression indicating that your clothes represent your insides. There's an expression in Arabic, Inni bihamdillahi la thawba fajirin. I thank God that I never wore evil clothing. The Arabs would say this, meaning I was never an evil person, like inside. My insides, I was never like evil at heart. I was never a vile person. So this could be a reference to what? Tazkiyah. And you'll find that those who incline towards lots of spiritual things, they'll say like, وَثِيَابَكَ فَطَهِّرْ يعني, this is tazkiyah, qalb, that you have to purify your heart, purify your character, make sure that you take away the sicknesses of the heart, and so on and so forth. Another Arabic expression فالرجل إذا كان خبيث العمل قالوا فلان خبيث الثياب وإذا كان حسن العمل قالوا فلان طاهر الثياب. That when the Arabs would say that when a person has ugly behavior, they would say he has ugly clothing or disgusting clothing, and vice versa. If the person had beautiful character, they would say he has beautiful clothing. So he's enveloped, he's enshrouded, he's clothed in a beautiful way. And so this is similar to the English expression, clean up your act. You're not actually taking soap and cleaning up your act. In English, when we say clean up your act, there's no soap involved. You guys know this, right? I assume we all know this. So clean up your act means what? Fix your behavior. And so it could be that وَرَبَّكَ فَكَبِّرْ internally, imaniyat. Glorify Allah in your heart. وَثِيَابَكَ فَطَهِّرْ is amal. Is your actions. You need to clean up your actions. So wallahu alam, this combination is what? A combination of الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. So it's a beautiful way of looking at it. By the way, there are no other ayats to my knowledge, wallahu alam. This is the only ayah that mentions purification of your clothing. It's very, very interesting. There are other general ayat of purification. Allah says, إِنَّمَا يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ لِيُذْهِبَ عَنْكُمُ الرِّجْسَ أَهْلَ الْبَيْتِ وَيُطَهِّرَكُمْ تَطْهِيرًا. Allah intends only to remove from you your impurity, O people of the Prophet's house, and to purify you with extensive purification. Now in terms of a hadith, we know the hadith in which the Prophet says, this is in Sahih Muslim, and it's it's the 23rd hadith in Arba'in al-Nawawi, famous hadith, At-tuhuru shatrul iman, that cleanliness is half of faith. Why would cleanliness be half of faith? Many different interpretations. Why? Because you have to do the removal and then the addition, right? You don't, if you want to clean it, if you want an area to be nice and cleaned up, you don't just have it as a mess and throw nice things in. No, you have to remove the ugly and then put something clean. So that's the concept of La ilaha illallah. So the La ilaha, removing of shirk, that's the half of tuhuru shatrul iman. That's the half of cleaning. And the illallah is the adding. And you can also say that in terms of deeds. There's taqwa and there's ihsan. Many different ayat putting the two together. Taqwa, stay away from the bad deeds. Ihsan, doing the actual good deeds. And this also with salah, the washing and purification first and then the prayer after. So these two halves go hand in hand. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam bis-sawab. There's a nice Arabic poem or couplet. It says, إِذَا الْمَرْءُ لَمْ يَدْنَسْ مِنَ اللُّؤْمِ عِرْضُهُ فَكُلُّ رِدَاءٍ يَرْتَدِهِ جَمِيلٌ. So it's a nice little two-line couplet, and in English you can make it rhyme. If a man doesn't mess his rep with something wretched, no matter what he wears, his dress will be splendid. You get it? If a man doesn't mess up his reputation with something wretched, in other words, if you don't have ugly behavior, then no matter what he wears, his dress will be splendid. In other words, even if you don't wear the nicest clothes, if your character is beautiful, people, that's what they'll see, your positive attitude and your beautiful perspective, and your beautiful attitude and your actions. The final point that I want to mention about this one is about the wife, which I think was fascinating. This is because Allah Ta'ala says in Surah Al-Baqarah, ayah number 187, هُنَّ لِبَاسٌ لَكُمْ وَأَنْتُمْ لِبَاسٌ لَهُنْ. Allah Ta'ala says that they are like garments for you and you are like garments for them. So there is a parallel between the clothing and the spouse. And so, some scholars said, is it possible, وَثِيَابَكَ فَطَهِّرْ could have been foreshadowing that Khadija anha is going to be passing away, and that the Prophet is going to in the future marry multiple wives, many wives, and so therefore you need to get the best of wives. Now, I know you could say, well, this seems like a bit of a stretch. To be honest, I don't think it's super crucial that we say this is the interpretation. I think the more straightforward interpretations are just fine. Literally, make nice clothes, or maybe improve your character a little bit, things like this. These things could be general advice for the da'i, right? So that's fine. This seems like a bit of a stretch, but to be honest, from the perspective of a da'i, doesn't it make sense that if you want to get involved in da'wah, if you want to be serious about calling to this deen publicly, do you really want to be undermined privately at home? Right? It's really going to destroy your productivity, your ability to be a good da'i. If every time you go home you have to micromanage your spouse, your wife, to say, did you teach the kids how to make wudu? Have you taught them these adhkar? Are you teaching them how to read the Quran? Did they pray their prayers? Are you reminding them to go for salah? Are you this and that? If you're constantly micromanaging, you can't be very effective outside of the house if you're constantly hustling inside of the house. It's much better, and I think if you take it from this perspective, it seems perfectly valid that every da'i should be doing his best to marry very righteous spouses. Hence, وَثِيَابَكَ فَطَهِّرْ. If this is your clothing, your spouse, then try to get the best possible so you can be the best da'i possible. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam bis-sawab. So may Allah ta'ala make us of those who understand these ayat in the best of ways. I know we only covered 2 ayat, but they're very heavy ayat. This introduction, I believe, is the first 7 ayat, really heavy, subhanAllah. Lots of content here. So I could have kept going about words of tahajjud, but I didn't want to get you guys tired, inshallah. So with that, we'll close. May Allah Ta'ala make us du'at. May Allah Ta'ala make us of those who always call to the truth and live by it, apply it. May Allah Ta'ala make us of those who magnify Allah in our hearts and through our actions. And may Allah Ta'ala help us to spread this deen far and wide, especially in the part of the world that needs it perhaps the most. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. So, comments, questions, thoughts. I would hope to open it up first to you guys for comments, and then after that to the people online. We're trying something new today. Hopefully there are some people actually watching online. Maybe they have some comments and some questions. If so, that'll be great. But let's start with you guys. Bismillah.
So back to the ayah, and وَثِيَابَكَ فَطَهِّرْ. So as you mentioned, Jazakallah khair, first it goes back to your actual physical clothing.
Yeah.
But it actually also relates to during time of prayer. So the importance of being not only a state of ritual wudu when you pray, but also having pure clothing as you pray, and being completely free of any najasat. And then secondly, as you mentioned, it also can apply to all of your actions. Right? So actually purifying your heart and then purifying your actions. So the reflection of a pure heart is in your pure speech and your pure actions. Allah.
Barakallahu feekum, absolutely right. And actually you reminded me that I should emphasize, sometimes we take these things for granted, but they shouldn't be taken for granted. We need to be reminding each other constantly of a very important point, which is what? That when you go to a public bathroom, for instance, there are a lot of people who don't wash themselves well. There are a lot of people that when they drop their pants and they let their pants touch the ground, there could be things that are being soaked up, some urine or whatever the case is that makes your clothes disgusting. We should be very particular about cleanliness. Alhamdulillah, this is what our deen is about. Al-tuhuru shatrul iman, as the hadith says, it's half of your faith, that you want to be a pure and clean person, inshallah ta'ala. You don't want to be, and I know some people have OCD, it's a real problem where they literally, I've seen a guy make wudu for about 40 minutes. I remember that. I remember when I was young, I saw a man do this, and it was my first time encountering this, and it was kind of shocking. Because he was drenched, he looked like he just jumped into a pool, he was completely drenched, but he was like, no, it wasn't good enough, it wasn't good enough. He was just going again and again and again. It's like, bro, you missed the salah, we prayed a long time ago. Like, you were supposed to join us, but you just couldn't stop making wudu. So he clearly had a problem, and there are different ways, different methods to help people that have these issues. There have been people in this masjid that told me that and when I make wudu, I always feel like maybe one hair I missed. Maybe I missed one spot, one atom's like on the atomic level, something's not wet, and so I need to just keep going. Clearly this is an issue. So we don't want to be obsessive to that point. However, we don't want to go to the other extreme, which does happen unfortunately, where sometimes you see the bathrooms and they're a complete mess. You go to their homes, it's a complete mess. SubhanAllah, we have to be a people of cleanliness, and we have to be setting a good example. Barakallahu feekum. Comments, thoughts, yes or no?
Just a question about rabbak and this ayah can be structured in a different way. Rabbak, something else. Why did you come across why the structure of the ayah was exactly like this?
Takhsis, exclusivity, and istimrar, continuity. So, وَرَبَّكَ فَكَبِّرْ, Allah only, it's not like you're glorifying Allah and other, obviously, idols, a'udhu billah, right? That's exactly, no, exclusively, to the exclusion of all the shirk going on in Mecca, amongst the Quraysh, etc. Number one. Point number two is what? فَكَبِّرْ, continue to do so, مهما يكون, whatever happens, كبر, whatever happens, keep on magnifying Allah. So in other words, it's kind of like preparation. You're going to be speaking about Allah Ta'ala, and people are going to take issue with that, right? Or who do you think you are? Oh, really? Oh, so you're so awesome. This happens all the time. I feel like all of us can relate. The moment you start trying to give da'wah to somebody, the defenses go up. They start taking shots at Islam, at Muslims, maybe at your race. If you're Arab, Pakistani, whatever the case is, they start taking shots there. They start taking shots at you. Oh, you're Mr. Perfect now. Who do you think you are? Whatever the case is, people get very defensive. And so whatever happens, keep going. Don't let their negativity deter you from your job. You have a job to do, you have a limited amount of time in your life to do it, and we act like we can live forever. That's not the case. We don't live forever. We have a limited amount of time to have an effect. That's all.
But if the two words were flipped, like fakabir, with that, I guess what would be the difference if you switched the wordings? Fakabir versus fakabir.
That's what I just said. It wouldn't indicate exclusivity, and it wouldn't indicate continuity. It would just like just magnify Allah, not exclusively, just like say Allahu Akbar. The Christians will say things like God is great, but they also have a lot of problems, right? And they might do it one day when they're feeling happy, and then they're like, well, I was feeling down, so I didn't. I've actually heard things like that, like speaking to Christians about like, did you go to Sunday service? And they're like, no, like, you know, I just wasn't feeling like it. Like, they don't have that sense of like, this is a fun, like they don't have any of these ahkam, you know, rulings. So, you know, today I'm feeling excited and spiritual, so I'll go, and then the next day I won't go, and like, there's no sense of like, the Muslims like, look man, even if I'm not feeling so good, alarm goes off, wake up, make wudu, pray salat al-fajr, because you're an abd, right? I'm enslaved to Allah Ta'ala, right? I am an abd of Allah. So whether I'm super excited or not, you know, it's kind of like a soldier. That's the way I like to think about it. The soldier's like, well, sir, I'm not really feeling it today. It's like, get up and go, you know. It's like nobody cares, you know, how you're feeling. You know, if you have a soldier mentality, it's like orders are orders. You got to get it done, right? And now I'm not saying you have to always be so harsh and negative, but at the same time, it is what it is. You're an abd, so you have to accept that. If Allah is Rabb, then you're an abd. Comments on this side. Bismillah. Tafadhal. Ya Muhammad.
Yeah, you have Al-Muddaththir. It sounds so much like someone who's actively right now, psychologically afraid or worried, and they're wrapped up. So he's not just wrapped up, he's not just covered, he's wrapped up. And you know, when you cross your arms, you're being protected. Like, it makes you feel more safe.
Yes.
So God is calling you, like, yeah, you have Al-Muddaththir. Like, do your message, do your thing. How are you going to do your thing with all of these feelings? So the only way to do it is to actively love above all of these feelings that you currently have.
Yes.
You know, it's like, why are you standing up like Allah, to beat those feelings that you have inside?
Yes.
But that's what's going to make you stand up and move in the direction of warning people. And when you have Al-Muddaththir, it sounds like one of the options that you said that is, you know, it's the public image that you have.
Yes.
So you can't warn people while you are, you know, you have any of your actions or your behavior. So God knows that inside of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he's thought, he's already thought, but with all of these doubts and with some doubts and worry and some fear, you know, it needs a lot of courage to go in that direction and face the current that's coming towards you.
SubhanAllah.
Yeah, so
I know, it's really good.
That's like your public image, keep it actively.
Yes. Yeah, and it's amazing, like, when you really think about it, like, most of the Quran is not ahkam, it's not a book of fiqh, you know, like a book of fiqh is just like do's and don'ts, you know. Of course there are ahkam in the Quran, no doubt about it, but it's not a book of fiqh. It's not like, it's just like every ayah. So like, the way you just described it, if I were to put it in a category, I'd be like, this is like motivational speaking type stuff, you know what I mean? This is like charging you up, like, let's go. It's like saying, I understand you feel broken right now. I understand you have a bunch of fears that are crushing you, but guess what? Allah is greater than your fears. I'm not denying your fears. I'm not denying your anxiety. I'm not saying it's going to be easy. It is going to be hard, but you're built for this. And Allah is greater than whatever your fears are. So like, this is like some heavy motivational stuff, you know? And I feel like if Muslims were to take that and to pray with that and to think like that, SubhanAllah, we would be able to do so much more and be in such a better state, inshallah. Any other comments? Okay, we'll stop there, inshallah. Barakallahu feekum, may Allah Ta'ala make us of those who follow in the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and we try our best to get up, warn people, magnify Allah Ta'ala, and purify our clothes physically, but also internally our hearts and also our actions, all of it, inshallah. And even our spouses and families, everything. Every possible meaning is legitimate, and may Allah Ta'ala make us of those who do our best to purify ourselves.